following announcement has been paid for by the WZWA Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Insider's Edge podcast here on the WZWA Network. I'm your host with the most on the West Coast, Karlifornia in Fury. What a joy to be with you all once again. I'm in a new location, as you may all be aware. The background's a bit different. I've moved house. So this is where we're at now with the Insider's Edge. And I'm excited. I'm thrilled right here, right now to have the opportunity to talk to former IPW heavyweight champion, former NWA Florida Southern heavyweight champion, NWA Florida and NWA World Junior heavyweight champion, the one, the only, the incomparable Lex Lovett. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. And all I need is for you to follow me around all day, telling everybody that intro, and I'll be good to go. I haven't heard that in a minute. It's been a few years. So
yeah, no, I do.
Good.
That's good. That's good, bro. I do get props on my introductions quite a lot. But it's great to have you on the show. The first question, as per usual, sir, on this show is, when you were a younger man, before you got into the business, sure you've been asked this many times, how did you become a fan of professional wrestling?
Okay. So I am a Tampa native. With that being said, everybody knows the storied history of professional wrestling, championship wrestling from Florida in Tampa. But I was a little different. I grew up in a very religious household, and we weren't allowed to go down to the shows. But I did sneak off into the other room, and every Saturday morning it was WWF, it was CWF, Championship Wrestling from Florida, the World Class Championship Wrestling from Texas. I mean, that was, just larger than life. The Von Erichs were I wanted to be a Von Erich so bad. All the championship wrestling guys, we would see them out and about in town. You'd be at a restaurant, you'd look over and, oh, hey, there's Dusty Rhodes, like it was nothing. It seemed like all the big names used to come through Tampa, and there would be sightings everywhere. So to us, it was nothing to be, in Thenotis Assa at a restaurant. And, oh, look, it's Blackjack Mulligan, or it's Barry Windham, or Kendall Windham. So it was just always part of our life, and I was always a big fan, always in sports. Never got into wrestling as an amateur, but it was just larger than life, iconic. All my heroes were, like the He-Man types. I'm ashamed to say it. When I was a kid, I was an Ultimate Warrior fan before I knew better. But the Billy Grahams and just the big names that were larger than life. They were superheroes. It was like, man, someday if I ever, if I can't be Superman, at least I can, go down to the armory, and hopefully someday I'll be down there doing this myself. So.
Yeah, and hopefully one day when you're out of the business, a guy from Australia will be bugging you about an interview.
Yeah, I don't think that ever came across my mind, but hey, here we are.
Excellent, bro. So there has to be a point in time, obviously, where you got to figure out a way of getting in, and I guess you might be pretty lucky being in that part of not only the world but of the country as well, to have so many people around the place that you can try and find your way into the business. How was that process? How did you do it? Before we start talking about you getting trained.
It's a crazy story. It isn't your typical. I was down at the MMA, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu studio, and somebody saw me and thought I'd make a great wrestler. It wasn't like that. I was a big fan. It was around 1999. It was when Goldberg was having his big push. The NWO was a big thing. So at that time, I would dare say that wrestling was the biggest thing happening in America. Both companies were doing crazy ratings. People were making crazy money, and so as a fan, I was looking in. I was about 250 pounds at the time. I was an incredible athlete. I was at the top of my game in my sport, which just so happened to be college cheerleading. I was competitive at a high level, and it was actually a guy that I lived with my second year in college. We were on the cheerleading team together. His name was Lex Lovett. So me and him, we lived together for about a year, and then he graduated and went his separate way, and I did my thing. But a few years later, I walk into Hooters over there by University of South Florida, and I see my old buddy Alex, and he's humongous. He's in probably about the best shape I've ever seen him. He's got a black goatee that I could tell is dyed, and he's got white hair, and just completely looks like something I've never seen my friend look like. So I just walk up to him, hey man, what's going on? So he lets me know that he's professional wrestling now. So he was going by You'll Love It was one of his gimmicks, and he was also doing a Dante character. It was a painted face character, but he had gone to school with Steve Kerr, so he was a part of that gym, and he started talking to me about it. So he invited me down to a show. So I had never seen, up until this point, I had never seen a live wrestling show before. So I remember it was in Ybor City down here in Tampa. I go to the show, and all my life I thought, well, I'd love to be a wrestler. I'm just not big enough. At 6 foot, 250 pounds, I still thought that I wasn't big enough. So I go into an independent show, and now I'm meeting everybody, and I'm looking them eye to eye. I'm sizing them up. Hey, there's guys smaller than me. There's, and I start to watch the live behind the scenes, and I start thinking, well, I was a better athlete than Alex was. I was, I was always in better shape than he was. If these guys can do it, I can do it. So it kind of gave me the confidence to actually put my mind and put it in my mind that I could be in there in that ring, and I could be a competitor. So I decided I wanted to do it. I went down and I met Steve Kerr down in his school, and we were ready to get started. It was about I think it was June or July of 1999. I was ready. I had my money. I was going to start. I was excited about it. But there was a tour that a bunch of the guys went on in South America, Peru, and unfortunately on that tour, Lex Lovett passed away. Don't really want to go into why, the hows, but he had a heart attack and lost his life on that tour. So I didn't start. You could imagine that. I mean, this happened on a tour. All the guys have to come back to Tampa now. They've got to deal with the fallout, the funeral, and all that. So the school closed down, and then it wasn't till November that I actually started. Once the bad air got out of the building, everybody was ready to move on. So November of 1999, I started wrestling school with Steve Kerr. And went through school with Steve Kerr, and that's actually how the Lex Lovett name came about. When it was time to have my first match, I trained for about 4 weeks, and then I was presented with the opportunity to do a tag match, and they asked me what my name was going to be, and here I am. I was like, well, I'm in a 10-week school. I didn't think I'd need to know that by week 4, but here I am. I'll coming up with a name. So I just, it kind of jumped into my mind. Hey, why don't I take the A off Alex, wrestle as Lex Lovett? You'll Love It had a little following here in Tampa. So, I was billed as the cousin of the late You'll Love It, Lex Lovett. And it started from there. So, and I was called Lex Lovett every day of my career, except for the times that I went under a mask and I did the Saint gimmick. So.
All right. Wow. That is quite the journey there just to get to this point. And my condolences on your friend, but really nice that you paid tribute to him with the name. So I guess, how did you find the experience training with Steve? I know with my research it also said that Jimmy Del Rey was a little bit involved with that as well. How did you find all of that?
It was incredible. It was an old school sweat box. It was basically a bay building that had no AC, no restroom. We used the restroom outside. There was 2 rings in the building. There was one ring that was a bumping ring, and then the other ring was so hard that if you bumped in it, you'd have a concussion. So we'd work drills and holds and chain wrestling in the other ring. But it was the best atmosphere. Some of the best guys were down there. You were always going to be around greatness every single time you went down there. So for basically 4 solid years, I did not miss a single day. Even though I started wrestling after I was 4 weeks in, I was still there every single time the doors were open, because you never knew who you were going to miss out on. There was nothing to be, in the ring working drills, and then all of a sudden look up and standing in the doorway was Undertaker, Edge, The Rock. It was commonplace. You'd be rolling, all of a sudden you look over, you'd like, holy crap, it's Undertaker. But the guys that trained with down there were awesome. Steve Kerr was head trainer. He worked with Jimmy Del Rey, who was just an incredible giving man. A lot of people like to focus on the negatives that Jimmy had in his career, but man, the guy would do anything for you. He always, he was always there for you, no matter where you were, whether you were in the parking lot, whether you were at the building, at a show. Jimmy was just somebody you could look to. I also, I was training down there with some really good guys. We had Buck Quartermain was down there training people. Mike Sullivan, Scoot Andrews would come through quite a bit. When the Miami guys would come up, like Billy Fives and MVP would come up, we'd have nights in there where, there were 20, 30 guys, and we would wrestle till, we got kicked out till 11:30, 12 o'clock at night. But there was just so much talent in the area that it was, so easy just to sponge it all up. In that, in that facility, I got to train with all of my heroes. I got to train for a solid 3 months straight with the oh my God, 3 months straight with Eddie Guerrero, one of my all-time favorites. And actually, he writes about it in his autobiography, which is pretty cool. But one of the times he was coming back from a rehab stint, me, Steve Favada, or Steve Madison, and Eddie, for the whole summer, for 3 months, we must have trained 6 to 8 hours a day in that gym. So if you walked out of that gym and you weren't, solidly squared away, you just didn't have it, because it was just a magical place. A magical time for wrestling. So, and pretty much all the guys I met down there have become my brothers for life. So.
Right. Wow. Just being able to be in the ring with Eddie Guerrero would, that would improve you tenfold, no matter what you're doing. I can't even imagine. I wanted to bring up the first match in my research. This is what I read. You team with Venom, Tim Kern against Drunk and Disorderly, which is Chris Nelson and Vito DiNucci.
Yeah.
How was the first one?
It was nerve-wracking. It was surreal. It was all of the things that you could imagine a first match would be. But then imagine this is something a lot of people don't think about. Your first year of wrestling, the drive to every building is terrifying. The butterflies, the what am I going to do tonight, the who's going to be there, how's the match going to go, you're so keyed up. And imagine you're driving to your first match and they tell you it's at some bar in St. Pete, and you drive up and you park and you look up and they're setting up the ring in the middle of a sand volleyball court. So it was a place called Kahuna's. It was a Frankie Reyes run show. He's a local promoter here and referee here in Tampa area, and it was right smack dab in the middle of a volleyball ring. You had to walk through the sand to get into the ring. But it was kind of like, well, if I mess up, this is a great place to mess up. Who's going to see me mess up? But we had 20, 30 people there, but it was awesome. It was living my dreams. It was first of all, Chris Nelson, Vito DiNucci. If you've ever been in the ring with them, it's so fun, it's so light, it's so easy to get over. Just let them do their thing, just listen to them. And then I had a veteran, Venom, Tim Kerr in my corner. So basically I just went out there and just, remembered my training and just listened to the guys and try not to crack up from Chris telling jokes in the ring, which he loves to do. But it was one of those just life-changing moments where from there it was like I was shot out of cannon. It was time to do this.
Excellent. It must be great to be feeling that feeling, that's something that you had hoped for so many years prior. I wanted to bring up NWA Florida and just what it was like working for Howard Brody and the scene at the time, because I've had guys, a lot of guys that worked in Florida on the show, like Scoot Andrews and Billy Fives, etc. So many talented people in the area. How was the experience working for Howard?
Well, Howard's a wonderful guy. He's one of those guys that, if you're one of his guys, he takes good care of you. If you do good business with him, he'll push you to the moon and just, he's got your back. But the way it went down is they were getting ready to start up the Armory shows, the Fort Homer Hessler Armory. Howard Brody was bringing wrestling back. So he was running NWA Florida. So the first show was, my opponent was Venom Tim Kern, the guy that I tagged with in my first match. It was a great match, and I probably had 50 people in the stands. My father-in-law had shirts made up, so there were 50 people in the stands with Lex Lovett shirts. So that helped me get booked for a second match. The first match was a elimination tournament, and I got eliminated in the first round, and the crowd booed, and I think Howard saw some good in me. So he decides in his infinite wisdom, and he is awesome at getting baby faces over. He put me as his junior heavyweight baby face, and that just blew me out of the water, because they approached me and said, "Hey, if you lose weight, we can make you a big star." And my whole life I've been thinking I'm not big enough for this business. I'm after going through wrestling school, I lost a few pounds. I'm like 240. And still I'm still in my mind, I'm not big enough. I'm not 300 pounds. So but here I've got a promoter saying, you know what, if you lost about 20 pounds, I've got something for you that could be pretty cool. So I went ahead and I got all the way down to like 205, 210 and started the junior heavyweight ranks. So he throws me into a program that lasted about, I'd say 6-7 months with the Tampa Click. The Tampa Click was Scoot Andrews, Billy Fives, Pepe Prado, and Mike Sullivan. And Buck Quartermain. Buck Quartermain. So what you've got is you've got the 5 best talents pretty much in the world at that time, right here in Tampa. And if I've told people in the past, if wrestling high school was Steve Kerr School of Hard Knocks, grad school was NWA Florida, and my professors were those 5 guys, and they beat the snot out of me, week in, week out, all over Florida. I have still to this day never had the pop for me winning anything like I had the pop for when I won the NWA Florida Junior Heavyweight Championship from Pepe Prado. The place erupted. I mean, it was just, but it was a program. It was old school programming for, for down the road, not programming for this show or maybe the next one. There was probably about 8 to 9 matches before the blow off, and I finally got the win, and it was old school babyface getting annihilated and just coming up with a I think a schoolboy from behind winning the championship, and it was the biggest thing that I've ever been a part of as far as a pop. But I mean, it was great. NWA Florida was great. It got me noticed. It's how I ended up with the NWA World Junior Heavyweight Championship. And then the 53rd anniversary show was the show that got my videotape. Yeah, I said it, my videotape seen by Kevin Kelly. And that opened up things for, some WWE developmental looks and things like that. So, I mean, it was a great time, and the wrestling was phenomenal. I was in the Armory watching all my my childhood heroes from the past: Steve Kerr, Mike Graham, Brian Blair. All the guys that came back to wrestle in the Armory. I was on the same shows in the same locker room, and I'm just looking around the Fort Homer Haguesly locker room, and I'm just imagining Eddie Graham standing there with his cigar, giving instructions. I'm just imagining, Dusty Rhodes, doing his thing, getting ready, holding court. So, just really cool, surreal. Some of the best memories of my life.
Awesome, very awesome. One thing I wanted to bring up again in my research, I found out about this. It's April 24th, 2001. There's a feud going on between NWA Florida and IPW. And there's a moment where you're hit with a fireball, I believe. Can you tell me a little bit about that? Is the internet telling me the truth there?
No, I don't think I was ever involved in a fireball situation. However, the whole IPW thing, that was when I was going through wrestling school, when I was going through how I wanted to wrestle in my mind, I was not a fan of hardcore wrestling at all. I was always a legitimate athlete growing up: gymnastics, football, baseball. So, the old school, the athletic wrestling is what I geared towards. So when I thought IPW hardcore wrestling, and I saw some of the videos and some of the death matches and all that, I didn't want to have anything to do with it. I was doing good with NWA Florida. I thought, I'm going to stay with this group over here. I'm not going to go over there. And then all of a sudden we merged and had this angle. And man, it was a crazy time because IPW was on fire. NWA Florida was doing their thing. We had like the 53rd anniversary show for NWA Florida was at IPW WrestlePlex. And that's when the guys came down from Wildside, so we got to meet all those guys. So right about the time IPW and NWA merged, NWA Florida kind of did its, kind of took a detour, and then IPW, I just stayed on the roster. And once I got there, and once I started doing shows with them, I started realizing it's not just hardcore wrestling. It's Ron Nemi has this brilliant mind for all things wrestling. And he was actually, what he was doing is he was taking his hardcore product, and he was bringing in some some shooters, some more athletic guys to come in, and and he was doing it right, bringing people from all over the place. First time I ever saw the NWA world title was in that building. He was bringing in AJ Styles all the time. He was bringing in, guys on the independent scene that were making a name for themselves. Christopher Daniels, Sonic Youth. I just keep thinking about all these people that he would bring in, and then he'd have his Florida boys, and he'd say, okay, my Florida boys can go with your, independent rock stars, just like the best of them. And he got a lot of us, our names out there, because of that. But IPW became that second, home for me. And then it was, I was diehard IPW for the next 4 or 5 years. Right up to today, I still get, texts from Ron Namey all the time. Hey, you got another one in you? And I always tell them, yes, I got another one in me. And then about 2 weeks before the show, I start to feel real bad. I'm like, hey, man, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this. But it was a weird time. It was, why is NWA Florida? Why is, why is IPW coming together? But it really did work, and we had a good time.
Awesome, bro. I sometimes my research can be wrong. Sometimes the internet is just incorrect on some things. So I do apologize about the incorrect.
Oh, no problem. I got into a fight. With a woman I was dating for 2 years, or excuse me, for 2 weeks, because she looked on the internet and saw that my birthday was in March or something like that. And I told her I was a Libra. So she was that crazy that she thought, okay, well, he said he was a Libra, which is October, but the internet, says Lex Lovett was born in March. So this guy's obviously lying. So I wasn't born. I was born in October, not in March, but yeah, the internet's the internet. It's fun to see what they'll say about you.
Yeah, it's happened many times in the show. And speaking of October, you mentioned the NWA 53rd anniversary show. I believe it's October 13th, 2001. A War Games match takes place on the day with Jet Jaguar, the Shane Twins, Mike Sullivan, Scoot Andrews, against Buck, Chris Nelson, yourself, Rod Steele, and Vito DiNucci. Tell me a little bit about this. It seems like, just from talking to the other guys as well, how hot the area was at the time, how hot this story was. Just tell me a little bit about this. To be in a War Games match as well must have been pretty a nice one to tick off the list.
Yeah, it was pretty cool, but that night was weird because I already had the match earlier in the night. It was a 5-way for the NWA World Junior Heavyweight Championship, which I dropped to Jimmy Rave, God rest his soul, that night. So my mind was wrapped up in that deal. And those of you who've been in, 3 ways, 4 ways, 5 ways, 27 ways, whatever, every time you add a person in that ring, the degree of fucked upness that can happen goes up exponentially. So when you got 5 people on that big of a stage, and you're really trying to, make sure you get your story across. That's all I was thinking about. So, okay, now we're done. Hey guys, what do you need me to do? Just go get beat up in the ring. Okay, that's pretty, or in the cage. That's pretty easy. So that was fun. That was the one I'm trying to remember. That was the one that actually broke down at the end and became a run-in with NWA Wildside. Ran in on, it was an IPW versus an NWA feud. It was a blow-off, but then Wildside comes in from nowhere, and then they just clean everybody's clocks. It was IPW was getting destroyed, NWA Florida was getting destroyed, and that actually set up an angle with NWA Wildside. But I will tell you, all I remember is it was Riddle and Brooks. I can't remember what their tag team was. They were big, tall bikers. I can't even think of the name, but they were NWA Wildside guys. They came in the ring, and I was feeding. I was coming up, getting my shots, and going back down, and having a conversation with whoever. So I remember standing up, and one of the brothers had gotten Ron Nemey's briefcase, and he is just braining people, like almost dead. I mean, it is so I'm looking up at this briefcase, and it's got like 10 dents in it. It looks like a beer can that's just been smashed. And he looks at me, and I just bumped. I didn't even take it. I just bumped, and I crawled to the apron, got outside of the ring, grabbed somebody like I'm in a movie, and I'm acting like somebody that got shot in an army scene, and I pulled the person on top of me, because it was just, I was like, man, that guy's gonna kill somebody. It was just insane. People were getting, just waylaid left and right. I was like, this is not my thing. I'm gonna take a powder here. But it was fun. It was, a very exciting night. It was just one of those nights where so many big images come flying back, like the main event with Steve Carino against Hashimoto was insane. I had never seen anything like that. How stiff it was, and how brutal it was, and how believable it was, and how there were people in the stands that were actually crying. And it was outside, and it was in the parking lot. And there was, bosses were fighting. Bosses were in on the angle. You had people from Japan outside, arguing with, promoters it was just insane. And we're all all the boys are looking around like, are we being worked, or what's going on? But it was just such a cool, crazy night. Anybody that went to that event will tell you that they'll remember that night, for the rest of their life. So.
Awesome. I have to try and track the footage down somewhere. Hopefully it's somewhere on the internet.
Yeah, I've seen it somewhere. It's out there, but it is just briefcase, boom, and you're looking over, go, hey, I wonder if Timmy's all right. Roll him around, make sure he's still alive. But I wanted no part of it. I jumped right out of the way. I literally bumped and then jumped over a few people into the apron. So
fantastic. I would have done the same thing. Yeah. So 2001 is a very interesting year in professional wrestling. WCW and ECW are now no longer in business, but things are doing pretty well in
welcome to my world. Wrong place at the wrong time.
Absolutely. There's been a few guys I've spoke to who were right on the cusp of something, and then all of a sudden there's only one company now. But there's another company that's starting up. Unfortunately, it doesn't really take off, but it's the XWF. And I always ask anyone who was on these shows about their experience on the 13th and 14th of November 2001. Universal Studios. My research tells me you worked with Vapor, also known as Ryan Sakota, may he rest in peace, Jimmy Snooker Jr., and Quick Kick, which is better known as Low Key, everybody. What was your experience like with this? Were you hopeful that this would take off? Tell me a little bit about your XWF time.
Yeah, so that situation was a pretty messed up situation that pretty much is a microcosm for what's wrong with professional wrestling. And a lot of people who, I'll put it this way, I have no reason to pull any punches anymore. I've got no aspirations of ever doing this again. I don't, the politics doesn't pertain to me anymore. I'm living an adult life. I've moved on. So the climate is, you've got probably about 50 guys that are really, really good independent wrestlers. We are, we're all ready to break out. We're all better than anything happening on TV. I'll say it again. We are all better than anything we're seeing on TV. And it's so frustrating. All right. And so we're just sitting around going, okay, well, just, put yourself in the spots to be successful. Put yourself in the places to be seen. Just do your thing. Keep your head down. WCW goes out of business. ECW goes out of business. So now there's, let's just say 80 to 100 unemployed wrestlers with TV names.
Yeah.
So we're all sitting around like we're never gonna make it. You know, this is pretty much done. So Jimmy, it was Jimmy Hart. I know the Valentine was in it. He was one of the partners. The Nasty Boys, and Hulk Hogan was supposed to be a part of the XWF. And what they were going to do is they were going to do the next WCW. It was XWF In Your Face. I spent another entire summer trying to get their three big bodybuilders some kind of ability to wrestle, because just like you know, in the past, they wanted the 6'5", 300-pound jacked up bodybuilders to be their main stars. Well, their three new main stars were awful. They were horrible. They sucked so bad at wrestling. So we spent an entire summer just trying to get those guys able to put a 5-minute match together on TV. A few of us, I know Steve Habbo was in that. I know Eddie Guerrero helped out with that. He was looking for the XWF to be a new landing spot. So we get to the taping, and probably about 40 to 50 independent guys, and probably about 30 to 40 of the ex-WCW names. The ones you remember from that time, the Buff Bagwells and the Lex Lugers and that those kind of people. And you're like, okay, yeah, they should be here. It makes sense. We're all gonna jump on this company. And it was such a big deal. Like, my wife actually threw me a party when I got hired by XWF, and I knew that I was going to be booked on the XWF. It was like, okay, we've made it. We're finally working for a company. We can finally pay our bills, this, that, and the other. It was a party. We had a bunch of people there. So I show up, and I'm scheduled for 3 matches on the first day and none on the second. So, which is fine with me. So, I wrestled my matches, like you said, Vapor and a couple others. They called Quick Kick, Low Key. Had good matches. Just all I wanted to do was just show them what I could do and get in, get out. So the first day, everybody was real excited. Everything's going good. Then the second day was a nightmare. I wasn't supposed to wrestle, so I didn't show up, mentally prepared. And the first thing that happens, and I'm gonna throw somebody under the bus. The first thing that happens is Mike Graham comes up to me and says, "Hey Lex, we got you wrestling twice today." I was like, "Oh, okay. I didn't think I was wrestling." He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "Now, listen, Jimmy Snuka Jr. He hasn't had a good match yet, and it was awful. I mean, he fell off the ropes. I mean, it was pretty bad." He says, we need him. We've already seen what you can do. We need him to have a good match. We need him to have a match we can put on tape." I was like, absolutely. So I ended up wrestled that one, and then he comes back. He goes, "Hey, so and so, yeah, they need a good match." So that second day was all about me trying to get good matches out of people who haven't given them any quality yet, and names that they wanted to use. So, the story of my life, once again, I'm a jobber. Let me do my job. So, and then about midday, everybody starts grumbling, and they start, rumors start going that we're going to be, we're going to be shut down, and the company's not happening. So basically, when it all was said and done, by the end of the day, we had no television deal. We started the weekend. We were supposed to be, what we were being told is we were supposed to be with NBC. NBC was going to pick us up, and we were going to roll. So come to find out, that was all contingent on Hulk Hogan being a part of being part of the creative team, being part of the direction, and actually being an on-screen talent. And they wanted to give him what is a normal person an insane amount of money just to use his name. But we've all heard, anybody that's heard Hulk Hogan talk about, his career. Everybody cuts their own deal, brother. Everybody cuts their own deal. So I guess this is where he did not feel like 70 people and their livelihood was worth the money that they were going to give him. So he just pulled out of the deal last minute, got up from the table and left. So what you're looking at 70 people that are out of work, a lot of people that are counting on this to move forward, get through the next few years until something can shake out. But literally, we were all, dead in the water on the second day because Hulk Hogan, the deal wasn't enough for him. So that's how I see things. And to the point where, years later, when I'm hearing on the radio all his legal troubles and people are suing him and he's losing all his money and divorce and everything, all I could say at that point was everybody cuts their own deal. I mean, karma comes around. So I'm definitely not a fan of the way that situation came out. I'm not disgruntled. I'm just I'm just letting people know that XWF did not happen because of Hulk Hogan's ego, plain and simple.
Right. Holy shit. I never heard that story before, but it makes sense because, within a couple of months he was back in the WWE. So
oh yeah. And they tried, Jimmy Hart, bless his soul, he tried. He shopped it everywhere he could. He went to the conventions. He had all the footage, but he didn't have a network. So because he didn't have a network, there was no XWF. And that was it, so.
Yeah, that's a massive shame because I have seen the footage of what they ended up putting out, and it had potential to be a something different anyway too.
It did. Yeah.
at least there being a second company out there at that point in time.
Exactly.
I did see that you did get another opportunity in December of 2001. I don't know if this is the first time. Again, the internet might not be reliable, but you work with Crash Holly on WWF Metal. Is this your first opportunity there? And what was your experience like there and the feedback?
It was dream come true. I'm going to be working for WWF. Kevin Kelly had seen the 53rd anniversary show. I kind of got on his radar then. He called to ask about me. A couple guys that he knew from Florida put me over to him. So it was time for me to get my tryout. My first experience with the WWE was a perfect 10. Absolutely wonderful, which is a stark contrast to 6 years later. My last match in the WWE was one of the worst days of my life. First day we drive. There was four of us. We're in the car. We drive to Lafayette, Louisiana. So it was the Cajun Dome. We drive up, and never been to a WF building before. The four of us, none of us did. So we drive up, ask where we could park. We're confused. Huge building. We walk in, and the very first person we run into is Stone Cold Steve Austin. And this was at the time where he was the biggest thing on the planet. So bam, walk in the door, and there he is. He's like, "Hey guys, follow me. I'm going to the locker room." And he walked us. If you imagine a dome, the underside of a dome, and if you've ever been around, we were in the opposite corner from where we needed to be. So he walked us, four scraggly independent guys, all the way around to locker room, showed us where we could sit. Hey, this would be a good spot for you over here, this, that, and the other. Where you from? This, that, and the other. So we sat down, and then in comes the big show, and he sits down next to us and lights a cigarette. And I always tell that story. It was basically, he had a cigarette, and all you could see with his hands is the tip and then the very end. So you could barely see the cigarette in his hand. It was so big. He sits down and he's talking to us. We just take it all in. Anybody who's ever been an extra, you just take it all in. You go down to the ring, you get your assignments. You eat at catering, make sure you're not sitting in somebody's seat, just trying to be respectful, try to remember that, you trained for this. This is why you wanted to do this. And it was magical. We had a great match. I made some rookie mistakes, but it was a good learning experience. And it was what they tell you about walking through the curtain is absolutely true. What they told me at the beginning, all my friends, is go through the front curtain and allow your body to experience what it is about to experience. Because what happens is you walk through that curtain and immediately it's like somebody just punched you in the stomach and you lose your air. It's like all the breath gets just yanked right out of you. So they said, take a minute, let your body breathe, let your adrenaline calm down, take your time going to the ring, because where most people mess up is they come through the door, can get completely overwhelmed, take that to the ring, and then get completely eaten up, forget your spots, whatever. So, that was good. That was good advice. You walk through the curtain, bam, it hits you. You can't even remember your own name at that point. You calm down, you get in the ring. And then, we just had fun. It was, one of the best experiences, of my life.
Awesome. I watched the match earlier and I noticed Taz on commentary call you Lyle Lovett and mentioned that you were married to Julia Roberts and all of this stuff.
Right.
I don't know if you saw, if you've seen it back, but I was laughing a little bit at some of his antics.
He had a little fun with my name. I enjoyed that.
Certainly not a problem getting mixed up with being married to Julia Roberts, that's for sure.
Well, yeah, but that's an ugly man. That I love it. I didn't take that.
I think you've got
to take that as a compliment.
I wanted to talk a little bit about one Antonio Banks, which many may know as MVP. Just in my research, it seems that you two had quite a bit of an angle there in 2002, bleeding over into 2003. What was it like working with him at that stage of his career?
Well, Antonio Banks, a lot of people know him as MVP. That was just a really cool connection from the very beginning. He came up through Miami, and NWA Florida was running all over Florida at that point. And Antonio was wrestling for FOW, which was basically a company that we did business with down in Miami. So I can't remember the first meeting exactly, but that guy from the first moment you met him, you just knew he had it. You knew he was going to make it. Just listening to him talk, the charisma of just him being himself. That's what a lot of people don't understand, that it factor. For example, The Rock, if no one knew who The Rock was, if The Rock ended up in another country where they'd never heard of wrestling, and he walks in the front door of any building, any room that he goes in, everybody's going to stop what they're doing to notice this person. They're going to notice the size. They're going to notice the athletic, just oozeness, the glide of the walk. That kind of person, there's just something about them. And we see these people every day. Yeah, like the guy that comes in from Centos that works at the doctor's office, and all the girls go, ooh, the Centos guy's coming. There are people like that where they walk into the room and just immediately everybody just lights up. Well, he was that person. No matter what room he was in, he would automatically light up. And then whenever a camera would be pointing his direction, just immediately, boom, he was on. So promos were always his thing. He never had any problem. But then he was such a good athlete. And at the time, I was wrestling in Japan. I was doing a lot of strong style. Strong style was I was going from more of a junior heavyweight acrobatic style to more of a legitimate strong style, shoot style. And Antonio was a humongous a Japanese wrestling fan. Pure wrestling was all it was about. So at the time, I'm learning the style. The only thing, if you ask him what is your number one goal, and his number one goal was always to get to Japan. He wouldn't tell you WWF is my number one goal or WWE. He would tell you Japan. So I started working out with him and we started working more of a stiff, strong style together, and we meshed. Similar sizes, similar athletic ability, but we just both understood the how those matches are supposed to get over. So me and him for about a year, we just wrestled every show we were on. It was Antonio and Lex, Antonio Lex, and we had some incredible matches, and probably one of the greatest compliments anybody's ever given me is when Antonio won the U.S. Heavyweight Championship from Chris Benoit. Antonio he called me and said, "Hey man, I just want to thank you. Everything that we've done up until this point, got me ready for the match with with Chris, and to be able for somebody to tell you that, holy crap, what a compliment. That the time we spent together, the time we were training together, working together, was exactly what he needed once he got up and got that call. And I remember I was on the last I was wrestling as the Saint, and I wrestled Antonio on his last match as Antonio. It was here in Tampa. We were supposed to go 20-minute Broadway, and we did. And then at the end, he just comes up to me. He goes, "Nah, we're not going to leave it this way." He goes, "Let's do about 2 more minutes and you go over." And I'm like, "Bro, this is your last hurrah." He goes, "Nah, man, I'm gonna put you over on the way out." So, that was cool. I spent some time with him up in when he was in Georgia, with the developmental territory there. I went up a couple of times with them, so I got to see him progress through that ranks. So, the guy is deserving of where he is now. Every time I turn on wrestling, I see him up there. Able to carry on a career with just his microphone skills and just his charisma. Man, I just, that's cool enough for me. I don't need to make it there, because a good friend of mine, a really good person, a really deserving person, got to the top and got to achieve his dreams. And he did. I mean, he asked for his release from WWE so he could go to Japan, and he lived his dream. How many people have the fortitude and the wherewithal to say, "You know what, I'm going to ask for my release from the biggest company on earth so I can chase my dreams and go wrestle in Japan." I have nothing but respect for that guy.
Awesome, bro. Thank you for the insight there. That was really interesting stuff.
And I was there the day he got hired by WWE.
Right.
We were down. It was the last match that I wrestled for WWE. We weren't supposed to wrestle. We were down by the ring, just hanging out. We were getting ready to go eat at catering, and he asked me if I wanted to go eat. But on the way, I got stopped by Sergeant Slaughter, and I had already gotten paid. I had already been told, I'm not wrestling that night. He comes up to me and says, "You Lex Lovett?" I said, "Yes, sir." He goes, "You've got Eugene, 5 minutes, go find him." And this was like 6:45, and I believe the doors opened at 7:00. So I had to go scrambling back. Well, Antonio, he went to catering, and on his way to catering, he was walking down the hall, and Stephanie McMahon had stepped out from the interview room, and recognized him from a video package that he sent her. And she told him the story that I heard. She told him, "Hey, would you like to cut a promo?" He said, "Sure." He was just walking by. So he steps in, and she goes, "Can you give me a 30 and can you give me a 60?" and he nailed both of them. And he walked out, and he walks up to me later on, and he goes, "Man, I think I just got hired." And I was like, and he told me the story, and he's like, "Yeah," and then now he's starting to freak out because am I hired? And then he starts thinking about some legal issues. Can I travel? Can I work for WWE? And he has his own story. I'll leave that for him. But it was pretty cool. I was there that night. I got to enjoy that with him. He's like, "Yeah, man, she just told me I got hired." I was like, "If Stephanie McMahon told you, you got a job, I guess you got a job." So, that was a pretty cool day as well.
Yeah, very cool, bro. Wow. That's a great insight there into MVP and all of that. Awesome stuff, bro. So you mentioned Japan. So I have to kind of go there because I always seem to find some interesting stories. World Japan Pro in 2003. I assume this is your first experience in Japan. Do you have any stories of your time there?
Oh yeah, Japan. I mean, there are so many stories from Japan. I mean, I could just tell you the headlines of Japan and never have to go in the stories, and it'd be kind of like crazy. Like if I told you, or if I was walking up to the Shane twins, I was like, "Hey, Mike, remember that time?" Or it was Mike. "Hey, Mike, remember that time where we got into a fight with the New Zealand national rugby team in Roppongi, and the only thing that saved us were the Africans," and then walked away? Everybody around us would be like, "What?" Yeah, we got to a fight with the New Zealand national rugby team. I think they're called the All Blacks or something like that, or something like. They're well known. I popped a dude in the mouth. He was giving Mike a hard time, and next thing you know, I look up and there's the whole team standing in front of us. And if you go over to Japan and you go to Roppongi, there's the guys on the street with the suits from Africa. They're giving out flyers to the people passing by for the gentlemen's clubs and the hostess bars and stuff like that. And they speak English, and we speak English, and Americans don't look down on them quite as much as the Japanese do. So we would always pal around with them on the street. We got to know them pretty well. So here we are. We're about to get pummeled by a whole team of rugby players. It's just me and Mike Shane, and next thing you know, there's a wall of suits in front of us. So they held them off, and we ran down the alleyway back to our hotel. There was a time that the hostess, if you don't know what a hostess is in Japan, it's the really pretty girls in lingerie that pour drinks in the bars and whatnot. So she ended up coming back to my hotel. I think I had talked to her maybe 2-3 minutes. The next thing you know, we're going back to my hotel. And it was the way we used to do it over there was tours were 2 weeks. So we'd go away for a tour. We'd come back to Tokyo for about 3-4 days, and then we'd go back on tour. So this was during that 3-4 day period. So imagine a half Japanese, half Colombian, smoking hot hostess with I believe it was platinum blonde hair. I mean, it's insane. She ended up staying in my hotel room for 3 days. Nothing happened between us. She was just always there. And I'd be like, "Okay, you leaving now?" "Yeah, I'm going to work." I'd come back and she'd be in my room. So it was so weird, bizarre. So I go back on the bus, and I used to sit. It's funny how things happen. We just assign ourselves seats. So on the bus, I always sat right next to Taka Amori. Don't know if you know that, and he's a pretty big name over. I learned so much from that guy just sitting next to him on the bus. So the guys are telling the story, and everybody's having a good laugh. And Omori's pretty serious. He's pretty intellectual. He looks over at me. He goes, how to say air conditioning. And it was during the summer. It was July, and I was thinking, what is he talking about? Because I told him I don't know why she stayed there. And he goes, air conditioning, girls, many girls one apartment, no air conditioning. So I had a hostess stay with me for 3 days because I had air conditioning. So that was, another one. But just so many like that, just so odd. So much fun, but it was great times. We were over there. It was me, Steve Madison, the Shane twins were there. A guy named Dan Bovish was a part of the company. He was a king of the cage fighter. The Road Warriors did some things. Vito, Big Vito, LaGrasso, he did some tours. The SATs were on the last couple tours with me and Steve. But it was great. At the time I started, we were making money, everything was doing good. But what happened was K1 and Pride was they were really exploding overseas, over in Japan. So the mixed martial arts started to become the real popular format over there. So, people just stopped going to wrestling, because they were going to Pride and K1. So where, when I began, the wrestling companies were in Tokyo, where Pride would be in Corrigan Hall. So about a year and a half later, it was reversed. Pride and K1 was in Tokyo Dome, which seats the 20-30,000, and Corrigan Hall was where the wrestling was going on, like I think it holds 5,000 people. But just the crowds dwindled. Some of the money went away, and over in Japan, you never know where the money's coming from anyway. You just show up and they give you an envelope. So we were doing good. I remember the last tour, they really liked me and Steve. They were going to put us together as a tag team, and they were talking about they were going to use us as their tag champs for a while, probably on the next tour. And then we went home thinking that we were going to have a tour in January, and then nothing. So the company folded in the time over the Christmas. And then at that point, I didn't want to go back to Japan for another company. I was into some other things back at home. I'd been traveling. I was pretty grumpy with traveling. So I never pursued like a New Japan or anything like that. I just kind of wanted to stay home. But I got to do it. I definitely, if NWA Florida was grad school, this was like, I don't even know what it was, because this is where you learn. If you're not solid over there, they just won't. They're indifferent. The Japanese crowd, if you don't know what you're doing, if they're not yelling for you, great, because they're watching you. If they start laughing and if they start talking while you're wrestling, that's when you don't have them. Japanese crowds are different. When they're quiet, they're watching intently. When you finally do something to pop them, they'll give you your pop, but you have to work for it. But when you're getting an indifferent crowd reaction, you've lost them. But it was just cool. You had to be solid. It exposed you to the world, and I got to see Japan for a year and a half. And I saw everything that I've ever wanted to see in Japan, and been in every city I've ever wanted to be in. So I count that part of my life as a success in the business.
Awesome, bro. Thank you for the story. Wanted to bring it to a little bit of NWA TNA talk now. February 5th, 2003, dark match, teaming with Rod Steele against David Young and Tony Mamaluke. And then, of course, you also form a tag team with Buck Quartermain. You're there for a little bit, but it doesn't seem like the team sticks around for too long. Tell me about your experience in TNA and why the team with you and Buck didn't have more of a longer run there. All
right. Again, we're in that place where I get to tell the truth.
Okay.
I went up to the NWA TNA in Nashville. Just kind of a tryout. Made my way up there. I think Bill Behrens from NWA Wildside, he got me that booking, but nothing much came of that. It was a good match, but at the time TNA, all they were focused on was just surviving, just just making their product viable for TV. So they were they weren't interested in bringing anybody in from Florida that they didn't know, or just a stranger. So it wasn't until they came to Florida, and I had met Jeff Jarrett on an IWA. I know he was involved at the IWA, and IWA came to Florida, and I had met him, and he was good friends with Jimmy Del Rey. So that was my end there. I knew Jeff, so when NWA, the very first show that they did at in Florida with the six-sided ring, I was there, as just wrestling crew extra or whatever. But I was basically there setting up the ring, and I was. I remember there was a that first leaked picture of the TNA six-sided ring, and there I am with a mop, and I'm mopping the mats. So I showed up, thought I was gonna work, and then next thing I know, I'm ring crew. And then I remember Jeff Jarrett comes walking by, and he goes, "Lex, what are you doing?" I said, "Well, somebody handed me a mop, so I'm mopping." And he's like, "Man, we got to get you wrestling." So it kind of went from there. I think I got booked on the next show. There was I had gone on a China tour, and I didn't have a great week with Terry Taylor. So Terry Taylor didn't like me. In fact, he was bad mouthing me to some of the executives. And I remember, because I heard this secondhand, somebody was in on the conversation, but I remember they said that Jeff Jarrett was in on the conversation, and he was like, "Oh, really?" So it was funny. The very next day, this was a 2-day taping. The very next day, I get there, I look on the board, and on the first show, I'm wrestling 10 minutes with Jeff Jarrett. So it was almost like he was like, "Okay, well, let's see. How better to know if a guy can go than to be in the ring with him." So me and Jeff, it's out there somewhere. Me and Jeff had a pretty good match, and I just sold for him and tried not to die. And from then on, it was an hour from my house, so I could drive over there. I wasn't airfare. I was cheap labor, so I just started working with the TNA, and it was always consistent. It was always basically an enhancement match, and with the caveat, "Man, Lex, when we find something for you, there'll be something for you." And then Dusty came in as Booker. And for the first time, it looked like me and Buck were actually going to get some kind of traction. Me and Buck had worked for Dusty's Turnbuckle Championship Wrestling some years previous, and Dusty took a liking to us. So now that Dusty's in charge of booking in TNA, he wants to do something with us, and he wants to do something with some of the Florida boys that he knows in the area. And his thought process was dead on. He goes, "Why are we bringing people in from Canada when we've got so many people here in Florida that we can just drive on over?" If you look during that period, there was a little period of, you see some Florida guys getting some push, you see some Florida guys getting some airtime. And actually my last match for TNA during that time was, or last show, is we ended up setting up Johnny Fairplay as our manager. And it was supposed to be a tag team, and they spent all afternoon filming for this angle for us to be called Team Fairplay. And if you look back, you had all the other tag teams involved in vignettes just to set up Team Fairplay, because Dusty had big plans for us. And we were actually told that Dusty was wanting to shock the world and have us come out of nowhere and win the TNA championship. That's all hearsay. However, What I can tell you is during that time where all the Florida boys were in there, some of the Northern boys were being left at home, and that didn't sit well with other people on the booking committee. So I remember it was Sunday, was the pay-per-view. It was the Lethal Lockdown pay-per-view with the tag teams, and we set up Team Fair Play. So Monday comes and we hear rumors that things aren't going well between Dusty and the booking committee. On Tuesday, we come to find out that Dusty has left and gone to WWE. And I think that's when he went to developmental. Okay. So if you've never been to a TNA taping, you park outside and you walk up, and there's this long breezeway, and all the, to either side there's buildings, but all the stages are off to your left as you're walking in, and there's catering. So it's a walk I've made many a time. So here's me and Buck were walking in 2 days ago. They said we were going to be a Team Fair Play. We're wondering what we're going to be doing that night. And I swear to you, run, not just walk, running over to us. I can still remember Scott D'Amore's little waddle as he ran over to us. And he was so excited to let us know that we would not be wrestling that night or anytime in the future. We could hang out if we'd like, but it'd probably be good for us to go home. So we're just looking at each other like, what do we do? So when that happened, I could have gone to Jeff Jarrett. I could have said, hey, what's going on? And as a matter of fact, we stayed around. We'd been there for over a year, not on contract. And we stayed around. Okay, well, maybe we'll just get through this week. We don't know what's going on. So we went into the arena just like we normally did, and they were getting set up for a meeting. So they get started, and all of a sudden they make an announcement that everybody not under contract has to leave. So, a locker room that we've been in for over a year now, and we'd come to, see ourselves as part of the company. They made us stand up and leave the meeting with all of us, with all the talent just watching us like, oh man, sucks to be them. Me and Buck, we went and grabbed our stuff. We went home, and that was it. That was the last time I was at TNA. That was kind of the last straw. It was just because we were seen as Dusty's guys. And I tell young guys all the time, don't put your hat in one person. Don't think because I'm so-and-so's friend, or I'm so-and-so's boy that I'm going to make it, or even your trainer. A lot of people think that if I have a trainer that knows people, I'm going to get a job. But in this instance, because Dusty, we didn't do anything wrong. We didn't do anything different. All we did was Dusty liked us. And then when Dusty was gone, we were gone, kind of in retaliation. And that's just one of the things that just soured me on the business, where it doesn't matter how good you are. It doesn't matter, how you do the politics or do the right thing or treat everybody right. Whether you make it or not is not dependent on anything else than luck or who and the whims of the politics at the time. So that was kind of the beginning of the end for me, for trying to make it. Everything from there on was just for fun after that. So
right, that's heartbreaking to hear that this is the instance that made you be like, you know what, okay, you've made now that dream that you had to keep going because of this instance, now you're like, okay.
The final straw, I'll tell you the final straw. Okay. The final straw was, I used to be a cheerleader in college, and I can do some amazing things. I can take a girl, grab her by the waist, toss her up. She can spin a couple times. I can grab her with one hand, this, that, and the other. So, I'm trying to get over, and you know what? I did come back to TNA, but I was trying to get over with a gimmick. So I just had this idea, what about a cheerleading gimmick in wrestling? And so what I originally told Jeff, and I sent him an email and everything. I was like, what about somebody from Freedom University? So they walk out there and then they got a big FU on their chest. And the girl that he's with, she has a big FU, and we're Freedom University. And at the time, if you think about the date, freedom, freedom. And so I said, I can just imagine, us coming out and we'd be heels, and everybody's chanting FU, and they actually think, and we think they're cheering with us. But he wrote back, I said, don't know if we can get that past the censors. But I like the idea. Let's run with it. So I actually went out and had a cheerleading outfit made for me and a partner, and we did 3 matches with TNA as dark matches. So we did it the first taping as a dark match, and then the following week, MVP actually called me, and he's like, bro, you're not going to believe what's going on. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, they're getting ready to put a spirit squad together in the WWE. And I was like, what are you talking about? Because me and him talked, and I actually had sent the package to him to see what he thought about it. He goes, man, they have taken your idea and they are going to duplicate it exactly as you've already done it. So he's like, you need to get on top of this. I get out in front of this. So I let Jeff Jarrett know that this was happening, and I actually called Steve Kerr, and I was like, "Hey, Steve, I'm doing a cheerleading gimmick in TNA already. I heard y'all are doing a cheerleading gimmick. I mean, it's what I've been doing for at the time I had been coaching in college for 10 years, and they were like, okay, well, and he got me in contact with Johnny Ace, and they actually brought me in for a house show, and I did one of the Spirit Squad, and I had no idea where they were going with it. And I actually did a match as a second to one of the Spirit Squads. Then I go back to TNA. I do another 2 matches with the gimmick, and actually the only time I ever won a match in TNA was a dark match as a cheerleader. And I've got pictures and everything, but I would come out of the ramp and I'd throw the girl up and I'd have her up over my head. We went to the ring, toss her up, catch her with one hand, and visually it was awesome. And I can remember Kip Sop, Mr. Ass, he was standing there and he's looking at them, put it on TV, and he's yelling at them, put this on TV. And they're like, no, we're not ready. He goes, and he said it, y'all are effing morons. At least have him open the show, do something, get this guy on TV now. And it wasn't, and that was like a Tuesday. It wasn't the next Monday that the Spirit Squad was on WWE, and they ran with that thing for, I don't know, 1.5 to 2 years. And that was my last gimmick to maybe I can get over, maybe I can do something different. And at that point I was like, man, it's just this business is not for me. And that was it. I can't even come up with my own gimmick and make it in this business. They're going to steal it and give it to 4 guys that, to be honest, I guess they were just looking for something to put on some developmental guys. And it was a way to stick it to TNA, maybe. I don't know. But it did it. It sealed my fate. I was like, I'm done. This business is too screwy for me.
Yeah, fuck. I can't believe it. Oh my gosh. That is heartbreaking. I thought before it was heartbreaking. That's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Was this during the time period where you worked with Eugene on Heat at all? Or was this
that was like 2008. By the time I worked Eugene on Heat, I had been waiting for a neck surgery. I had to have 3 vertebrae fused. I had 3 discs that were herniated, and they took out 2 and they fused 3 vertebrae. And I was looking at probably a year of needing that surgery when we had that show. And that was one where I went to the building. It was in Tampa. It was a building that I dreamt of always wrestling in. And I was out of shape. I hadn't wrestled in 6 months. Basically, I needed money. Steve Kerr called me, asked if I wanted to be an extra. And in the last 4 times that I went to WWE as an extra, I didn't wrestle. All I did was be a security guard or be a, do a pull apart in the locker room or something like that. So I'm thinking, okay, it's $250. I'm gonna go get it and stand on the side and watch. So sure enough, get there. This is the time. This was the day that Antonio got MVP got hired.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'm standing there. He comes up. Sergeant Slaughter comes up, gives me the match, and now I'm freaking out, and I got to go get ready. I'm not tan. I'm not shaved. I'm not geared up, and even more so, this was when FCW was just starting, the Florida Championship from Wrestling, when the developmental territory was down here in Tampa, and they built the $1 million facility. It was the place they were in right before they moved to the Performance Center in Orlando. So we're in Tampa. The extra tent, that's another thing. The extra tent was so full of luggage because they all brought their stuff. I'm thinking, well, they got all these guys on contract. If they're going to have dark matches, they're going to do it with their people under contract. When you think, so that's another reason I wasn't ready to wrestle. But that was last minute. It was awful. It was so horrible. There was no room in the tent to get dressed. So I walked out of the tent. Mind you, the first time I ever went to WWE, Stone Cold Steve Austin, which to me, there will never be a bigger name ever, walked me all the way around the building to take me into the dressing room. Well, here, 6 years later, there's a different person on top. And now we're getting dressed in these little pop-up tents off in the corner somewhere that the extras aren't even allowed in the locker room. Of course, I don't know this. I just knew that there was a tent. So I walk out, and one of the referees / agents was walking by. I said, "Hey, I need to shave my chest. Is there a place where I could do that?" So he walks me into the locker room, and he walks me in, and he sets me up, and he says, "Okay, yeah, you can go right here." So went in, shaved my chest, put on some lotion, cleaned everything up, threw it away, and then went back to the extras tent. So, and there were 2 people in the locker room. I remember that Trevor Murdoch kid and whoever his tall blonde partner was.
Lance Cade.
Yeah. I remembered him from the Memphis days. So they were the only ones in there, and they were giving me the stink eye, and I just figured that's just the way they were. So I walk back to the extra tent, put all my stuff in. So now I'm getting ready. I'm stretching out. I'm going over the match in my head, which we put together in 5 minutes because it was last minute. So here I am, just ready to go. We're in the gorilla area. There's monitors. There's 100 people there because the whole FCW locker room is sitting there watching the monitors. So we're all sitting there, and all of a sudden I feel somebody put their arm around me, and I'm like, and I look up, and it's John Cena. All right. So at the time he was the big name. He was on top, and he puts his arm around me, and he just kind of just yanks on me. I'm like, what in the world is going on? I look up, he looks at me, he goes, "Is your shit in my locker room?" And I said, "Excuse me?" He says, "Is your shit in my locker room?" I said, "No, my shit is right there in the extras tent." He goes, "It better not be, because if your shit's in my locker room, it's mine now. You don't come in my locker room. You have to earn your way into my locker room." And here I am thinking, I remember the first time I was here, Stone Cold Steve Austin, who's more of a champion than you'll ever be, walked me all the way around the building to show me where I sit down. Six years later, you're breaking me down because I used your locker room. So I had that in my head. 3 minutes later, I'm out in the ring having the match that I don't. So what should have been one of the best nights of my life was just awful. The match was okay, nothing remarkable. I remember getting done, getting cleaned up, and just leaving the building. I didn't even watch the show that night because it was just so embarrassing. Somebody like that had to pull me and show everybody what a big man he is by taking his extra and giving him shit right before he goes out and wrestles. That right there just showed me all the character I ever need to know about that guy. So yeah, me and John Cena, I've seen who he really is. And if anybody's ever been a fan of his, you've been a fan of his gimmick, and that guy's a piece of garbage as far as I'm concerned. That was just unnecessary. All I needed to do was get ready to work for the company that brought me in to wrestle, and I shaved in his locker room, and it was just that was a big turnoff too. After that was it. I was I got my surgery. I came back in I think I came back in 2013 for a show, came back in 2018. So everything after the surgery was just for fun. But yeah, it didn't exactly go out on a great night in my hometown, but I did wrestle in the Ice Palace is what it was called at the time. Now it's the Amalie Arena. But hey, we live and learn. I got to, be in front of my hometown. A lot of people were like, hey, I remember you at the Emily Arena. I'm like, I don't remember a single thing about it. All I remember is trying to get out of there as soon as I can. But I did left $250 in my pocket. So, oh well.
Well, after hearing that, fuck you, John Cena. How dare you tell this man that he has to earn? He already earned his spot. You just don't know shit, bro. Okay?
Yeah,
you've probably been wrestling longer than him.
Anybody that watches this and you're wondering how to be as a professional, there's never going to be any bigger than Stone Cold Steve Austin, and that's a champion. That's a person who gets it. John Cena is a John Cena mark. And he's been a mark for himself his whole entire life, and everything he does is because he is such a mark for himself that he believes his gimmick. I mean, he really does. His subconscious marks out for everything that is John Cena. So, yeah, fuck that guy.
Yeah, sorry to hear about that, bro. But a great story nonetheless, and a cautionary tale for those out there. How dare anybody want to shave their chest in front of a mirror? You should have just blindly shaved yourself and hope for the best.
Yeah.
So I did want to ask about the 7th of November 2018 against a guy called Francisco Chiazzo for IPW Hardcore. It's a strong as a seal benefit show in Port Richey, Florida. This, in my research, is the last match that you've had at this point.
Yes.
Did you know that would be the last one at that point? And have we seen the last Lex Lovett performance?
Well, I've been booked a couple times since that didn't work out, and I was going to do a match a few months back for a new company that was going to come that was trying to pop up. I was actually going to wrestle Steve Madison, but it didn't fall through. So there's a couple more left in me. I do go down to the school and roll around occasionally. But then for the next few days I limp around like crazy. So if the right match is there, I will. Like Frankie's one of my best friends in the business, known him for a very long time. Kind of one of those people that when you first meet them, you think they're jerks. And I just thought he was a loud New Yorker, which he is. But once I got to know him, we became great friends. So that was just, our good buddy, Navy SEAL, passed away prematurely. This was a chance to wrestle in his honor, a little fundraiser for his family, and I got to wrestle somebody that I trust. That's the thing. I've got so many injuries that I'm only going to wrestle somebody that I absolutely know, absolutely trust. I'll wrestle Steve Madison. I'll wrestle Buck Quartermain and Scoot Andrews, Billy Fives, people that I know, people that I can trust my body with. I'm not going to wrestle anybody looking to get over. I'm not going to wrestle anybody young, trying to get their spots in. For me, it's just if there's the right opponent, right reason, you may see me again. So, but definitely not a regular schedule, a weekly or daily situation like a TNA or I couldn't even imagine. People, when AEW started, people were like, oh, Jacksonville, I'm like, take that stuff elsewhere. I don't want to know anything about it. Jacksonville's 3 hours from me, it might as well be 300 hours from me. I'm not going. I don't want to have anything to do with trying to make it happen all over again. Somebody is like, yeah, a bunch of the guys. I'm like, yeah, I know a bunch of people. That's great. That's where it ends. But I am done. I'm a 47-year-old man. I've got a lot of injuries, but I've got a lot of responsibilities. That I can't be limping around. I can't be in a wheelchair. I got grown up stuff to do. My dreams are a lot bigger these days. I'm sitting here as a director for a Parks and Rec department with a municipality. So that's my goal. What I do now, I go at with the same amount of pride, same amount of I tell people that what I do with projects is I want to be match of the night. I just don't want to be good. Show me where the bar is, and I'm gonna jump right over it. So I get the same amount of satisfaction with what I do now, and a lot less pain, a lot less aches and what people don't tell you, it's not the injuries that kill your soul. It's coming back from them. It's the after times. It's the after the surgeries. It's the dealing with the pain pills. It's dealing with the aches and pains. It's dealing with the spotlights being gone. I mean, it is an addictive feeling, and anybody who's ever been in a wrestling ring knows that after a Saturday night, it could be just a Saturday night, 200 to 300 bar show, you go out there, you give it your all. Like, you can't even sleep that night. You're so excited. You're running everything around you're looking at the match back in your mind. You're analyzing. Your adrenaline keeps you going for, it's almost like you can't even sleep that night. And that's such an addictive feeling that when you don't have that anymore, you're like, where's that buzz come from? And that's where so many ex wrestlers have a problem assimilating back into society, is because nothing is ever going to pop you like that Saturday night crowd. Nothing is ever going to make you feel that way unless it's chemical, unless it's something extreme. And the other thing people don't think about is when you're running hard on the road physically, your body is getting the opportunity to sweat out all the alcohol, all the drugs. Being coherent that night for a match is a concern to you. So that keeps you from taking that second, third pill, having that, fourth, fifth beer that day. I'm not saying for myself personally, but and I've been through that. But what happens is you get done, and now you've got nothing physical going on. You have nothing to stay sober for. You have all these feelings of it's all gone. The magic is all gone, and you have no reason to be responsible. That's how so many people end up in that black hole, because that next day, I lost my job Saturday. Sunday, there's no place to go. I'm not training. I'm not flying somewhere else. So what am I going to do? I'm going to drink and take pills. What's there to do the next day? I don't know. Drink, take pills. And there's nothing that ever lives up to that dream that you've just lived. And so many people just can't come back for it. Can't come back from it. So, that's kind of what I'm the most proud of is I got in, I got to live like a rock star. I got to live my dreams. I literally was that person on TV that my younger self looked up to. I got to see the world. I've got to do so many like memorable things that I never would have otherwise. And I got out and moved on with my life, and I was able to be successful and responsible and overcome all the demons. I didn't have a great name there at the end. Everybody knew, if Lex is coming, hide your pills. I'd been so many injuries, so many aches and pains trying to go at a high level, that I got caught up into the pain pills, and they knew if Lex was coming, don't be rattling, and if you walked by, don't be rattling, because I could hear you had a bottle in your pocket. So we got done with that, got done with the wrestling, let my body get straight, let my mind get right. And then I've been basically just, kicking ass and taking names in real life, in the regular world. So hopefully that's a success story. How do you have a successful wrestling career? You get in, you have it, and then you go on and you do something else. And to me, that's how you become successful. I don't know, but that's how I look at it.
And that's how I look at it too. And I'd never really, this is, I think maybe my 115th interview I've done for this podcast. And I've asked that question many times of what's life like after the adrenaline rush is no longer there, and all of that stuff. Where do you place that energy into to get that kind of feeling, when you're used to getting that feeling all the time on tap? So you explained it so well there, so poignant. I don't think anyone in the previous 114 interviews has explained it as good as you. And I've asked that question to Don Morocco as well. So I really appreciate that. And it is a success story as far as I'm concerned, 100%, sir.
Thank you.
And Lex Lovett, we're coming right to the end here of the interview. It's the final segment of the show. It's called 5 Second Frenzy. 5 seconds to answer each question. Even if you break the 5-second rule, it's okay. You won't get in trouble. But I believe in you. I believe that you can do this. There's about 12 quick fire questions. The first 3 are about wrestling. Lex Lovett, who is your favorite wrestler?
Kevin Von Erich.
Nice. Favorite opponent out of everybody over the years?
Oh, man. Whew. Scoot Andrews.
Good answer. Good answer. Favorite match you've ever had?
Oh, boy.
I know that's a tough one for everyone.
There were 2 matches that me and Steve Madison had in Japan that was just so bonkers, so fun, so perfect. Steve Madison in Japan.
Excellent. I'm hoping to get Steve on the show very soon. Looking forward to that. Moving away from wrestling now, favorite book?
Favorite book? Probably Lord of the Rings.
Another great choice.
That trilogy, yeah.
Yep, good choice. Favorite TV show?
Favorite TV show? Walking Dead.
Oh, me too, bro. Me too. I'm obsessed. Favorite film?
Oh, favorite film? The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
Very nice. Very nice.
Yeah, that scene at the end, the 3 where they're all looking at each other and just the eyes and there's so much drama and there's so much emotion, but how that goes from that, how that whole story is in the middle of the Civil War, and the Civil War is just a backdrop for this cool little caper. It was my favorite. It stands the test of time.
Excellent. Favorite musical artist?
Chris Stapleton.
Very good. Moving away from the arts now, favorite food?
Sushi.
A very popular answer in this show. Another one still about food. Favorite place to eat on the road?
Oh boy. Well, on the road, you could always count on Waffle House. But there were your, got to say Ribera Steakhouse. Okay. If you can make it to Ribera Steakhouse and eat your jacket and you can get your steak, that's saying something.
Yeah, we've heard that one before, but Waffle House is probably the number one answer.
Yeah.
Favorite alcoholic beverage?
Currently not drinking, but I was always a whiskey guy.
Very good. Two more to go here. The second last one is the naughtiest one of 5 Second Frenzy. Favorite female body part? Lex Lovett's looking at a good-looking lady. Where do the eyes get drawn to first?
Smile, probably. Smile.
Good answer. Very good answer. And the last one on 5 Second Frenzy. I don't think you've said any curse words on this show. Maybe one or two, but favorite curse word?
The F word works, so well everywhere. I mean, it can be an adjective, it can be a noun, it can be a verb. It works anywhere.
Good call, bro. Well, Lex Lovett, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me here today. I really appreciate your time, and I always say this when I have someone on the show that I'd seen perform over the years, that when you think about what you've done in the wrestling business, to know that there's someone in the most isolated city in the world, Perth, Western Australia, all the way over here that was appreciative of your talents and all the effort that you put into your work. I just think it's important for me to say that, and I hope that you're very proud of everything that you've accomplished, not only in professional wrestling, but outside of pro wrestling.
All right. Well, thank you. Yeah. Thanks for having me. I haven't thought about wrestling in quite a bit. I don't even know who the champions are right now. I don't really watch it, but it was fun times. It's something I did, something I'm glad that I did. And I'm glad that there's people like yourself that are still, trying to get the information out there and keep the fans satiated, I guess. So congratulations on that. Congratulations on that success.
Well, thank you very much, sir. And again, thank you for your time.
All right. Thank you.
And thank you all out there for watching the Insider's Edge podcast here. I'm Karlifornia, alongside my new friend here, Lex Lovett, and I will see you down the road. Thank you.
WZWA Network, that's the way we like. Good God Almighty. WZWA Network, that's the way we like. Get puppies. WZWA Network, that's the way we like. Get.
The following announcement has been paid for by the WZWA Network.